So let me see if we can create some filters here. Oh yeah. You can't see this, can you?
Yeah, I can see it. It's pretty
Oh
solid.
man.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got pro. We've gone pro. Here, I'm just gonna
Shit.
put you in the middle of the screen. Just I mean no one wants to watch me anyways. What do you think? What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with our next video for Might and Magic Elemental Guardians. Today, we are going to take a look at the best 3-star creatures in the game, starting off our 4-part miniseries. And the first element is going to be fire. Here to help me out with that today is going to be none other than Mr. Volkin with Volkin Games. How are we doing today, sir?
Good man. Thanks for having me back. I took your advice and got on your level. I got the green screen, got the new mic, so hopefully it sounds better this time.
It sounds much better, definitely. I appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited to get this one done. As you guys know, there's a ton of different creatures, over 400 creatures in the game, and so many to choose from here as far as different types of archetypes and whatnot. So, I'm hoping that we can kind of narrow it down. Take a look at 5 ones in this video, and then, of course, we'll have some honorable mentions for you. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about the criteria. Some of the big things that we see in various top 5 videos is we talk about these units, but we don't really know how they break it down. So in today we have three main things we want to break it down with, and it's going to be the usability of this unit in most aspects of the game, how good is it in the role that it fills, and the relevance in the meta. As you guys might have guessed, the meta is going to be changing over time, and that may rank up or rank down certain creatures. So that's what we're going to take a look at now. The last disclaimer that we got to put out there, again, for anybody that's a Volkin fan and is wondering why the Fire Monk is not on the list, it's okay. Don't dislike the video. Don't dislike the video just yet. Again, these are just our personal opinions on this one. Again, 99% of it is Volkin. I put in that 1% in there at the very end, but we have some really good units on this list, and I think that you guys are going to enjoy it here. So, what do you say, Volkin? Without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Like you said, that 1% you did chopping the monkey out of it really hurt me, but we can get onto it. So we'll start at number 5. Number 5 and 4 were pretty close together. We could have had them either way. But with number 5, we've gone for the Firebird, the Submerg.
There we go.
Yep. Let's go to last evolution.
Last evolution. Okay, you want
Yeah,
to see it at pro?
I know yours is stuck at that middle stage. But
What?
we'll
What? All right.
okay. So this guy is a really good unit. He's got the great thing about him is his second skill makes him very versatile. So his second skill has that attack bar increase with the attack buff. Now it's not too relevant early game, the attack buff, but the attack bar is obviously giving your team more turns. But it's relevant that as you progress through further dungeon teams, I've been experimenting with teams that use attackers, and he allows you to have that bridging phase between a poisoner team because his third skill has that poisons, and an attacker team because he's got that attack buff. So you can start off with him glyphed full tanky in your early game teams. He's also got that elemental advantage, which is also really nice. But then as you go through and you start getting better glyphs, just better substats, all that sort of thing, you can start dropping a little bit of HP and stuff and putting in a little bit more attack, especially if you get the evolution skill, which gives him great damage. It just helps little bits. It's not huge, but it is something to consider. But the other thing with that attack buff is for early game, I believe you were using him in your arena team at some stage too.
Correct.
He's a very cheap option to have the attack buff with the attack bar boost. And obviously he's not something like the Earth Zealot or the Earth Fox or anything like that, but it's a unit when you're progressing through that fills that role of being able to get you through early arena games when speed competition isn't too high, so you can just make him really fast and he'll be able to give you first turn in arena.
Yeah, definitely.
So he fills those multiple roles and he does them fairly well.
Right. And one thing to add in here, when we take a look at some of these units, obviously we're looking at the kit and how they incorporate, but some of the things that we want to look at, it's not just the skill, of course, but the cooldown time. And so when we think about this unit having a 3-turn cooldown on an attack bar boost, even though the initial reason is to get the first turn if you're using it around for PvP, The fact that this is a relatively low cooldown versus some other skills out there on the second skill is pretty nice. I think the potential of this goes up to 40%, if I recall correctly. And
Yeah, I think so.
and then that elemental advantage buff that you were talking about, depending on where you guys decide to incorporate it, again, this has not just the elemental advantage for attacking, but also defending. So this is really, really nice if you're trying to stack other types of damage mitigation effects. Maybe you got the shelter from what Arcane Bird, you got a defense buff from your Winter Druid, and then you got this unit to provide that. That's a lot of different things to reduce the amount of damage you take. So if you're struggling in certain aspects of the game, that is something that can help quite a bit, especially for the fact that, like you said before, it has an AoE poison, and poison is obviously one of more meta relevant types of damage that we can incorporate. So really, really nice. All right. Let's see what we have on the list for number 4 here.
Number 4, we're going to be looking at the Fire Nymph.
Fire Nymph, yeah, buddy.
Now, she's very similar to the Firebird, as I was saying before, in that she plays that bridging role of early game teams into the attacker teams, because her second skill is almost identical to the bird's. At max skill, it is a 2-turn attack buff, but it also has a resistance buff, which doesn't seem like too much in the beginning, but especially in the Wrath Dungeon, when you get up to the boss stage, it stops you getting slows, it stops you getting armor breaks, so it's actually very helpful. And the attack bar boost is a 60% boost at max skills and a 3-turn cooldown. So it's a very good skill, the second skill. Like the bird, lets you use her in arena, saves you having to build extra units for that purpose early game, so you can save your resources. She is one that I think really needs the max skills to work well as a healer, because when we look at her third skill, at max skills, it turns into a 30% regenerate for 3 turns on a 5-turn cooldown. It also has the elemental defending advantage for 3 turns as well, which, same as the bird, is very nice. Seeing as she's fire, when you go into the Wrath Dungeon, especially when you're starting out, that elemental advantage helps not only her, but if you're using something like the Water Bird or the Earth Basilisk, it all reduces damage that they all take. And yeah, she also, exactly the same as the bird, that attack buff also lets her progress into attacker team. So I've just actually built one of these, max skilled it, and I've been testing it in some 3-star attacker teams that I've been building, and she's working really nice. The one catch is that her third skill, she does use it as a buff, so she'll prioritize that over everything else normally, which for me, when I'm trying to use attackers, I'd rather get the attack buff up, but early game, it gives you that pre-buff of the elemental advantage, which can be really nice when you come into the boss.
Right. And then another thing, too, is kind of a weird dynamic, right? Having certain skills provide that, since it has a buff mechanic, like put it in there, versus like waiting for it to be conditional and heal when you get low. I kind of like that aspect simply for the fact that since it's a heal over time, you're not going to get the heal until the turn ends. So might as well get the jump on it since you know you're going to get hit, and kind of prepare yourself to mitigate it. Just start the cooldown time. So something cool to point out.
Yep.
Let's see here. I think we're on number 3. We got number 3 on the list. This is one of the newer units out here.
Yep. So number 3, we're looking at the Fire Kappa. Now this is one that I haven't actually got yet. You haven't got. We haven't actually tested. This was more of a theory crafting monster, and I just really like him. And I've heard a lot of people that have really enjoyed him. So his third skill, especially, it seems a bit harsh before skill ups. It's what is it, 7-turn cooldown, I believe?
Yep.
And yeah, but it provides so much. It gives you the defense break, the haunted debuff, and a poison, and it's all AoE. So it's actually, especially when you go into the start looking at attacker teams, when you want that defense break, he, in a similar fashion to the nymph and the bird, he can operate early game just tanky as your poisoner. And then as you progress through, he brings that advantage of the defense break and the haunted debuff when you start getting the better glyphs and looking for more attack. And I think it reduces down, this is what I've been told, I haven't actually been able to see it, reduces down to a 5-turn cooldown on that AoE, which isn't too bad.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the second skill just adds to it more. It's a single target turn bar reduction with a speed slow based on his own speed. And it's actually incredibly helpful. Oh yeah, it also has the burst poison effects, obviously, which is very handy for poison teams. But when you look at his base stats, he's actually got the highest base speed in the game. which is 88, matched with the Fire Vampire. And that combined with his second skill, this is a much more later game sort of thing. It won't affect many people early game. But later game, you can use that high base speed and a turn bar reduction skill to gain a turn advantage against your enemy in the arena, which is very important. And then on his second turn, he can then armor break and let your nukers do some work if you've put some CC on the enemies before that.
Yep, it's overall it's a pretty amazing kit. I'm actually excited. I mean, obviously the bursting the mechanic is great, but I'm really looking forward to when we get into the mid to late stages of the game and we get some more attackers that we can mess around with. Having that AOE defense break tied into the hunted is really going to speed up the process of some of the runs that we're doing as far as clearing and getting glyphs. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's see here.
He's real solid. I can't wait to pull him either. I got about 80 summons saved, so I'm hanging out for it.
There you go. There you go. All right. Let's take a look. Rank number 2. We're moving on up is the Fire Druid.
Yeah, real solid unit, the Druid. She's just does what she needs to do, and she does it well. She can be used everywhere in the game. She's good in the Strength Dungeon. She's amazing in Tower of Trials. And she's also a really good arena defense monster later game. I know Legend switched up his defense and put her on it, and it's just brick walled me against him. I can't beat his defense anymore. But she's that. If you just read that buff and see all the buffs in that picture, it's crazy. So she's got the immunity defense buff, the speed buff, and the healing. It's just there's everything there. Yep. And even if it is on a long cooldown, it's especially in TOT and stuff like that. You use it when you need to use it, and it gets the job done. And then her second skill is also just adds to the benefit. It's a regenerate heal single target, so whichever allies getting low, she'll bring them up. And her first skill as well is also very handy. It's got 2 great evolutions. It's got a self heal for 10%, and it's also got a self speed buff for 1 turn. And that's I actually prefer later game the self speed buff because it means she's helping the whole team out more often. But they're both great options, so there's no real bad evolution for her either.
Yep. One of the things that I like about this one, similar to my Water Druid, is that when we're basically looking at some of these units out there, they have so many different roles in the game. Some of them just don't provide the beneficial effects, but some have some kind of harmful effect that is required to land, right? And obviously, when we're taking a look at that, the majority of them are going to be heavily reliant on accuracy. Whereas this unit, both of its skills are more driven to your team, and for that reason, you don't have to focus on the accuracy or using a precision set or whatnot. So you can do everything in your power to get this unit, fast and tanky, and not be too concerned about what kind of stats you need to bring in order to land some kind of debuff, because there is none. So it makes it a little bit easier to glyph up, in my opinion. And like I said, we said it before here. This is like such a strong unit in PvP. I mean, I remember the first time seeing one, didn't even realize what was going on, and I think this guy was running like a double haste set. It basically made me quit because I was using CC teams. He got the first turn, put up the immunity buff. I was like, okay, it's over. I can't do anything. He has sustain. He has immunity for 2 turns. Like, there's no way I'm gonna last. All right. Let's see. Oh my goodness. We have gotten to our number 1 person, which of course I don't think needs any introduction. I'm sure everyone guessed to what it was going to be.
Yeah, the Fire Succubus. She's an absolute beast at the moment. Her damage multipliers are just huge. It's all about that second skill, really. It's got the ignore defense, but it's not just that. It's got a speed multiplier, and it also drains their HP equal to 50% of her HP, and they both ignore defense. Because in this game, I don't know if everyone knows, but normally the drain skills are affected by defense, but this one isn't. So basically, you look at half her HP, and instantly that's guaranteed gone from the enemy, on top of the extra attack scaling with the speed scaling. So she can basically one-shot any enemy, and I've just actually 5-starred mine, and I'm going to experiment with a full tank build. Just full HP, speed, and then 4 HP glyphs, and see how it goes, because I just feel like something like that on an arena defense, especially, she'll just one-shot the first monster you wanna kill, and then she'll just keep giving herself the speed buff and attack buff until it's her turn again, with that skill to one-shot something again. So I feel like a tanky build could be really nice, but even just the pure crit damage build is insane. Basically, no matter what you build her, she one-shots things, and that's why she's so good. And she's an amazing farmer if you put her on lifesteal as well.
Gotcha. And one of the things that you were pointing out was the evolution effect on the first skill. It could cater that skill based on speed, or it can go to critical damage. Just to kind of throw it in there, since I know a lot of people possibly don't know the critical damage. Like when something scales off a critical damage, do you know how that actually affects it? Like,
as in her first skill when it says increased by critical damage, I'm not sure exactly on the way that multiplies. There is that good resource that we can look at now, which we'll have to check, but I'm pretty sure it just goes, the higher her, it'll be like a multiplier as a percent of what her crit damage number is,
right.
And that'll add to the damage.
Gotcha. And that's what I thought it was too, honestly. So I think it's just something to kind of point out, because, you know, some of these units out there that, you know, have an extra, maybe get like an extra 50% critical damage on the evolution. You know, we get excited about it, but then we realize, oh wait, we got 220 critical damage, but we also have 20% critical rate. Whereas a unit that actually has damage based off critical damage, we'll see an improvement in its damage without having to crit. Like, it's just going to be a raw, like you said, a raw kind of multiplier to improve. So I think that's something to just you know, keep in mind if you guys are not fortunate enough to get the speed buff. So
yeah, and the beautiful thing about it is as well that, like, that second skill, it doesn't need to crit to do the HP drain. So that's just a guaranteed number as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's very handy.
Yep, and that's last thing to kind of point out there too is the way how you were talking about it, you know, changing up the build on the succubus. I think this is one of the unique monsters where you can mix up the style of build and kind of catch your opponents off guard in the arena, which is what it's all about. You know, doing something that people haven't done before to throw them off their game and possibly get that defensive win so you can climb up in rank. So really, really good points there, my man. Did you want to go ahead and provide any honorable mentions except for the Fire Monk? Any honorable mentions that you could think of?
Okay, yeah. The Fire Monk, we'll leave him alone. He's my favorite at the moment. I love him. He's helped me out so much in Arena. But the other one that I think a lot of people would be surprised isn't here is the Fire Tree. And the Fire Tree is a great unit. Don't get me wrong. It's just the usefulness of it early game is very tough because he really wants that 100% crit to be functioning properly. And early game, it's just really hard to get those stats to get 100% crit while still having speed, HP, and defense, so that he can get his turns more often and heal and have enough stats to survive. Especially considering the first dungeon you go through is the Wrath dungeon, and the boss is water, so he's going to be taking that extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose 2 glyph slots to crit rate, it really hurts. But then once you get to later game, he's an amazing healer. But by that time, you've probably already built your initial healer, so you don't want to be investing in too many healers in this game. This is what I find anyway. When the other one you have will get the job done, and especially if you pull the water tree. The water tree is just so amazing. I think the problem with most healers in this game is that the water tree is just better. He just has so much to offer, and that's the problem with this Fire Tree. Yes, he's a really good, reliable healer late game, but there's not many places you would take him over the water tree.
Sure.
So it's sort of like by the time he gets his usefulness, you've probably got something better or something else built that you'd use anyway.
Yeah, completely agree. That's crazy. But yeah, no, that was a pretty nice list that you have brought forth to us. I appreciate giving your insight on this. Again, guys, this is just the first of 4 videos that we're going to be putting out. We'll have it sprinkled out throughout the week, so definitely stay tuned to that. And as always, if you didn't know already, Volkin with Volkin Games, one of the fastest growing MMEG YouTubers out there. If you haven't checked out his channel, you are wrong. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below so you guys can go ahead and give him a follow and check out his content, as he's provided so many great educational videos for the community. Volkin, my man, thanks again for coming on board. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Cheers.
Alrighty. That's going to be it, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's your boy Childish and Volkin with Childish Plays checking out. Take care, and we will see you all in part 2 of our series. Take care.